In the world of Power Rangers, 6th Rangers have always held a special place. They arrive later than the core team, often carrying with them an air of mystery, immense power, and sometimes even a sense of danger. But what is it that really defines a 6th Ranger? What makes them special compared to the rest of the team? To answer this today, we are going to dive into the traits that set 6th Rangers apart, using examples like, of course, Tommy Oliver as the Green and White Rangers, Zhane as the Silver Ranger in Power Rangers in Space, and Trent Mercer as the White Ranger in Dino Thunder. Let's get into it. Now, before we go too far into this video, I think it's important to address a couple of things. First of all, these are not rules. The things discussed in this video may not apply to every 6th Ranger ever, but they are definitely what the majority have in common. Secondly, the term 6th Ranger is a term used by us Power Ranger fans to describe the extra member of a Ranger team, the Special Ranger. It doesn't always necessarily have to be the 6th member of the team. Sometimes they could be the 4th member, sometimes the 7th. It doesn't actually matter, they are still, by their nature, 6th Rangers. Just like me. Hope that clears that up.
This video is in paid partnership with BetterHelp. Let's be honest, starting a new year can feel overwhelming. There's this pressure to make big, dramatic changes right away, and if you're like me, you might even feel stuck, like somehow you're falling behind in life. Last year I found myself constantly comparing where I was to where I thought I should be, and that anxiety just built up. But here's the thing, a therapist can help. They work with you to untangle all those external pressures from what you actually value. For me, therapy helped break down those vague feelings of being behind into real, addressable goals. My therapist and I created a timeline that wasn't about anyone else's expectations, just mine. And honestly, learning to measure progress on my own terms has been life-changing. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easy. You fill out a simple questionnaire and get matched with a credentialed therapist in as little as a few days. The whole process is online, so it's convenient and works around your schedule. Plus, if you don't click with your therapist, switching is easy and free. Start fresh any day of the year with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/the6th Ranger to get 10% off your first month of therapy.
Unlike the core members of the team, 6th Rangers tend to be more independent. They really start as part of the team and often have their own agendas or backstories that set them apart. Tommy Oliver, for example, his introduction in Mighty Morphin was unlike anything fans had seen up to that point. He wasn't recruited like the others. He was actually chosen by Rita Repulsa to be her answer to the Power Rangers, the evil Green Ranger. His independence initially made him a villain, but once freed from Rita's control, he remained somewhat separate from the team, often training alone and fighting battles his own way. Zhane from Power Rangers in Space is another great example. He was frozen in stasis for most of the series before finally awakening and rejoining Andros and the others. Even after joining, Zhane operated differently, often taking on missions by himself and working outside the core team structure. Trent Mercer, the White Ranger from Dino Thunder, followed a similar path. Initially controlled by Mesogog, he was a direct threat to the Rangers before eventually joining them. Even then, he operated with more autonomy, struggling with his dual nature as a Ranger and Mesogog's former pawn. This independence is a huge part of what makes 6th Rangers so compelling. They don't just blend into the team, they stand out and sometimes even struggle to fit in at first. 6th Rangers are often much stronger than their teammates, possessing abilities or perhaps weapons that set them apart. When Tommy returned as the White Ranger, his power level was off the charts compared to the others. He had Saber, a sentient sword that could fight on its own, and his energy attacks were far beyond what the core 5 could muster. Even as the Green Ranger, he had the Sword of Darkness, then the Dragon Dagger and the Dragon Zord. All of these just stood head and shoulders above the rest. Zhane's Silver Ranger powers were revealed to be incredibly strong, capable of taking on multiple foes with ease. He also had the Super Silverizer, a weapon that doubled as both a gun and a blade, making him one of the most versatile fighters on the team. Trent's abilities as the White Ranger were enhanced by Mesogog's genetic tampering, making him faster and more unpredictable in combat. His camouflage ability, which allowed him to turn essentially invisible, gave him quite the significant edge over his opponents. This overwhelming strength is a key part of what makes 6th Rangers so special. They don't just join the fight, they change the dynamic entirely. Sixth Ranger really just walks in and immediately fits into the team. Many of them have mysterious or complicated pasts that create tension before they fully integrate. Tommy's initial allegiance to Rita made him one of the most dangerous enemies the Rangers had ever faced. His redemption arc was one of the more defining moments of the series, showing that even the strongest foes can become the greatest allies. Now, unlike most Sixth Rangers, Zhane was never evil, but his long absence and connection to Andros' past made his return emotional. His mysterious stasis pod and the reveal of his backstory added layers to his character, again something that most Sixth Rangers do. Trent's story was even more complicated. Unlike Tommy, who was under Rita's spell, Trent's corruption was due to Mesogog's technology, which meant his struggle for control was far more internal. He had to prove that he wasn't a villain even after some of his worst actions. This duality makes Sixth Rangers some of the most complex characters in the franchise. They often have to work harder to prove themselves, making their eventual redemption or full team integration incredibly satisfying for us fans. Sixth Rangers often carry a lone wolf persona, even after they join the team. Similar to what I touched on earlier, they operate outside traditional team dynamics, sometimes lead into friction, but also allowing them to take on unique roles. After joining the team, Tommy trained alone and often fought battles by himself. His eventual limited power supply also added to his outsider status, making him feel different from the other Rangers. With Zhane, let's be honest, he was really with the team at all at times, frequently going off on his own adventures or dealing with personal matters. His dynamic with Andros was more about friendship than traditional teamwork. And again, Trent had to work to gain the team's trust, and even when he did, he was still seen as somewhat of an outsider. His artistic nature and personal struggles kept him somewhat removed from the core group. This ability to function both within and kind of outside the team makes Sixth Rangers unique. They can be a part of the group, but don't necessarily have to be in at all times, giving them an aura of this unpredictability. Now, we've already discussed that many Sixth Rangers start off as enemies before they fully join the team, making redemption a key aspect of many of their journeys. Tommy's transformation from an evil pawn of Rita to the team's strongest ally was one of the most compelling arcs in the early seasons, and let's be honest, set the groundwork for what it is to be a Sixth Ranger going forward. Again, Trent wasn't brainwashed but still struggled with the dark power within him, leading to one of the most emotionally complex redemption stories in Dino Thunder. And of course, while Zhane didn't start off as a villain, his mysterious absence and later return gave him a unique kind of redemption. One where, rather than having to try and prove to his teammates that he wasn't evil, he had to prove his worth and regain their trust in a different way. It tends to be this redemption arc that often is what makes Sixth Rangers the most beloved characters in the franchise. Their struggles to overcome their past and earn their place among the team adds layers of emotional depth to the show and to their characters. With all this said, perhaps the biggest reason that Sixth Rangers are special is that they shake up the status quo. Their arrival often marks a turning point in the season's story. When Tommy arrived, he changed the dynamic of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers completely. His presence elevated the stakes, giving the Rangers both their greatest ally and again initially their most dangerous foe, arguably still to date. Zhane's arrival in space marked a turning point, giving the team the extra strength they needed against Astronomer's forces. His return from stasis felt like a huge event at the time, reinforcing his very importance. And Trent's addition added another layer to Dino Thunder, giving the show an internal conflict that kept things interesting beyond the usual battles against Mesogog. Now, Sixth Rangers aren't just extra teammates, they're game changers. They can often challenge the team but also push them to new levels, and can even undergo the most compelling character arcs. Whether they start off as villains, operate as lone wolves, or struggle to find their place, one thing is always certain. When the Sixth Ranger arrives, everything changes, and usually for the better. And that's exactly why we love them. That pretty much brings this video to a close, my friends. Now, I've been looking forward to doing this one ever since I did my last video, which was what defines a Red Ranger, something that I had very good feedback on actually, so thank you to all that commented and let me know that you wanted to see more similar videos on different Rangers. Of course, the next one had to be a Sixth Ranger. There was no other choice. Now be sure to let me know in the comments down below this time which colour you'd like to see next, or if you want to see me move on to a different topic altogether. Either way, I don't mind. I just get to talk about Power Rangers. As long as I'm giving you guys what you want, I'm happy. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, please consider liking and subscribing. But until next time, have a great day, may the power protect you, and I'll see you next time on the 6th Ranger.